The fluorescent lights flickered in aisle 12. 3:47 a.m. That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. Slow, deliberate. But when I turned around, the aisle was empty. Completely empty. Except for a shopping cart, rolling toward me, by itself. Working the night shift at Walmart, you learn to accept certain things. The hum of the freezers, the buzz of dying lights, the occasional customer wandering in at 3 in the morning, looking like they haven't slept in days. But some nights, you see things that make you question whether you're really alone in those aisles. Whether the store ever truly empties. Or if something stays behind, waiting, watching. These are 8 true stories from people who work the graveyard shift. People who learned that after midnight, Walmart becomes something else entirely. Before we walk these dark aisles together, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. And trust me, you'll want to remember where the exits are. The first story comes from Marcus, a stalker who worked overnights in rural Pennsylvania. His shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 7 in the morning. 8 hours of restocking shelves in a store the size of a football field. Most nights, it was just him and 2 other employees scattered throughout the building. The vastness never bothered him. Not at first. He'd put in his earbuds, crank up his music, and lose himself in the rhythm of unpacking boxes. But 3 months into the job, something changed. It started with the toys. Marcus was working in the seasonal section, organizing Christmas decorations in late October. The toy aisle was directly behind him, separated by a low shelf he could see over if he stood up. Around 2 in the morning, he heard it. Laughter. Children's laughter. Faint, distorted, like it was coming from a speaker with a dying battery. He pulled out his earbuds and listened. Silence. Then, there it was again. He walked around the shelf into the toy aisle. Empty. The laughter had stopped, but at the far end of the aisle, near the floor, one of those musical toys was spinning. A small carousel with plastic horses, playing a tinny off-key version of a lullaby. He hadn't touched it. Nobody had been near that aisle all night. Marcus turned it off and went back to work. But 15 minutes later, he heard it again. The same carousel, the same broken melody. This time, when he walked over, the toy was in a different spot. Moved to the center of the aisle, still spinning. Still playing. He grabbed it, yanked out the batteries, and threw it in a damage cart. Problem solved. Except it wasn't. Because an hour later, as he was stocking shelves 3 aisles away, he heard children laughing again. And this time, it sounded like it was coming from right behind him. He spun around. Nothing. Just boxes and shadows and the oppressive hum of the store at night. But then he noticed something on the shelf. The carousel, the same one he'd thrown away, sitting there. Batteries still removed, spinning slowly, in complete silence. Marcus didn't go near the toy section after that. He told his manager the next morning, but she just laughed it off. Said the motion sensors probably triggered some display. But motion sensors don't explain what happened 2 weeks later. Marcus was taking his break in the employee lounge, scrolling through his phone, when he heard footsteps in the hallway outside. Small footsteps, like a child running. He called out, thinking maybe some kid had wandered away from their parent. No response, just more footsteps. Getting closer. Then, silence. The door to the break room was open. He could see straight down the hallway. It was empty, but on the floor, leading from the toy section to where he sat, were small, wet footprints, child-sized, as if someone had been standing in water or something else. Marcus quit 2 days later. The second story comes from Jennifer, an assistant manager who worked overnights at a Walmart in Arizona. She'd been with the company for 6 years and prided herself on staying calm under pressure. Difficult customers, equipment malfunctions, even the occasional shoplifter. Nothing rattled her. But what happened one October night broke that confidence. She was doing a routine walkthrough of the store around 1 in the morning, checking that everything was stocked and organized. The store was quiet. Just her and 4 overnight stockers spread across the building. She was walking through the produce section when she noticed something odd. A woman standing near the organic vegetables. Just standing there, staring at the wall. Jennifer approached her, assuming she needed help. But as she got closer, something felt wrong. The woman's clothes looked old. Not vintage, just wrong. Like they didn't belong in this decade. A long dress, dark and plain, with buttons up to her neck. Her hair was tied back severely, and her skin looked pale under the fluorescent lights. Too pale. Jennifer cleared her throat. The woman didn't move, didn't even blink, just kept staring at the wall. Jennifer stepped closer and spoke, asked if she needed assistance. Slowly, the woman turned her head, not her body, just her head. The angle was wrong. Too far. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, and her mouth hung slightly open. And then she smiled. A slow, stretching smile that didn't reach her eyes. Jennifer felt her stomach drop. She took a step back and called for security over her radio. No response, just static. She glanced down at the radio, and when she looked up, the woman was gone. Not walking away, just gone. Jennifer searched the entire produce section. Nothing. She checked the cameras later, reviewed every angle. The woman never appeared on any of them. Not entering, not leaving, not standing in that aisle. But Jennifer knew what she saw, and she wasn't the only one. Over the next few weeks, other employees started reporting a woman in old-fashioned clothing wandering the store at night. Always alone. Always silent. One stalker said he saw her in the freezer section, standing in front of the glass doors, her breath fogging the glass even though the doors were closed. Another said she passed him in an aisle, and when he turned to look, she was walking backwards, facing him, still smiling. The sighting stopped after about a month, but Jennifer never worked another overnight shift. Because the last time she saw the woman, she wasn't in the store. She was outside, in the parking lot, staring through the front glass doors, waiting, like she wanted to be let back in. The third story belongs to Eric, a maintenance worker in Oregon. His job was simple. Clean floors, fix broken equipment, take out trash. Most of it was mindless work, which suited him fine. He'd worked nights for 2 years and had the routine down to a science. But there was one part of the store he hated, the back storage area. It wasn't the size or the clutter, it was the feeling. Every time Eric went back there, the air felt heavier, colder, like the room was holding something it didn't want to let go. He tried to ignore it, told himself it was just his imagination. But then he started hearing things. Whispers, faint, barely audible, like someone speaking just out of earshot. At first, he thought it was the ventilation system or the sound of the store settling, but the whispers had a rhythm, a cadence, like a conversation. One night, around 3 in the morning, Eric was moving pallets in the back when the whispers got louder, clear enough to make out words, not sentences, just fragments. Help. Please, don't leave. His heart pounded. He called out, asking if anyone was there. The whispers stopped. Silence, heavy and suffocating. Then, from somewhere deep in the storage area, he heard footsteps, slow and uneven, like someone dragging their feet. Eric grabbed his flashlight and swept the beam across the room. Rows of shelves, boxes stacked to the ceiling, shadows that seemed to move just beyond the light. And then he saw it. A figure. standing at the far end of the storage area, partially hidden behind a shelf. Tall, unnaturally thin, not moving, just standing there, watching. Eric shouted, demanded to know who it was. The figure didn't respond, didn't move. Eric took a step forward, and the figure stepped back into the shadows. He followed, his flashlight shaking in his hand. But when he reached the spot where it had been standing, nothing. Just empty space, except for something on the floor. A name tag, old and worn, the kind Walmart stopped using years ago. The name printed on it was smudged, unreadable. But written underneath in faded ink were 3 words. Still here, waiting, help. Eric reported it to management. They checked the employee records. No one matching that description had ever worked there. At least, not recently. But when they dug deeper into the store's history, they found something. 15 years ago, an overnight employee had gone missing. His car was found in the parking lot, his belongings still in his locker, but he was never seen again. The case went cold. The store moved on. But Eric couldn't shake the feeling that the man never left, that he was still there, somewhere in the back, trapped in the dark. And the whispers? They never stopped. The 4th story is from Angela, a cashier who occasionally covered overnight shifts in Texas. She didn't mind the quiet. In fact, she preferred it. Fewer customers meant less stress. But one night in late November, something happened that made her reconsider. It was around 4 a.m. The store was dead. Not a single customer had come through in over an hour. Angela was restocking bags at her register when she heard the automatic doors slide open. She glanced up, expecting to see someone walk in. But no one did. The doors just opened and stayed open. Cold air poured into the store, carrying with it the faint smell of rain and something else. Something metallic, like old pennies. Angela called out, asking if anyone was there. No response. She walked toward the entrance, and as she got closer, the doors slid shut. But she swore she saw something. A shadow, tall and thin, standing just outside the glass. She pressed her face to the window, trying to see into the parking lot. Empty. No cars, no movement. Just the flickering glow of the street lights. She turned to walk back to her register, and that's when she heard it. Footsteps inside the store, coming from the direction of the grocery aisles. Slow, measured, like someone was walking with purpose. Angela froze. She called out again. No answer. Just footsteps, getting closer. She grabbed the phone at customer service and called for a manager. The line rang and rang. No one picked up. The footsteps stopped. Right behind her. She spun around. Nothing. Just empty space and the quiet hum of the refrigerated sections. But on the floor, where the footsteps had stopped, was a trail. Wet footprints, leading from the entrance to where she stood. She followed them with her eyes. They didn't lead anywhere. They just stopped in the middle of the aisle, as if whoever made them had simply vanished or was still standing there, invisible, watching her. Angela didn't stay at her register after that. She locked herself in the employee bathroom until her shift ended. When she told her co-workers the next night, one of them went pale, said the same thing had happened to him 3 months ago. Wet footprints, invisible steps, the doors opening on their own. He quit a week later. Angela lasted 2 more shifts. But on her last night, as she was leaving the store, she glanced back through the glass doors. And standing in the center of the aisle, barely visible in the dim light, was a figure. Tall, still, facing her. She didn't go back after that. The 5th story comes from Daniel, a night stalker in Michigan. He'd worked at Walmart for 4 years and had seen his share of strange things. Customers fighting over discounted TVs, people stealing frozen turkeys by shoving them down their pants. But nothing prepared him for what he experienced in the electronics section. It started innocently enough. He was organizing DVDs when one of the display TVs turned on by itself. Not unusual. Sometimes the sensors glitched. But this time, the screen didn't show static or a demo reel. It showed the store, a live feed, like a security camera. Daniel stepped closer, curious. The angle was wrong. It wasn't from any of the store's cameras. This view was from the center of the aisle, at ground level, like someone was lying on the floor, filming. He looked around. No cameras at that height, no equipment, just shelves and products. He turned back to the TV. The feed was still going. And then he saw himself standing there, looking at the screen. But in the feed, there was someone behind him, a figure, standing close, too close, reaching toward him. Daniel spun around. Nothing. He was alone. He looked back at the screen. The figure was still there, in the feed, standing right behind where he'd just been, watching, smiling. Daniel ripped the TV's plug from the wall. The screen went black. His hands were shaking. He told himself it was a prank, some kind of pre-recorded video, but that didn't explain what happened next. What? Every TV in the electronics section turned on, all at once. Every screen showing the same feed, the same angle, the same figure. But now, in every screen, the figure was closer, moving toward the camera, toward him. The lights in the section began to flicker. Daniel backed away, his breath coming in short gasps. And then, from somewhere behind the shelves, he heard it. Laughter. Low and distorted, like it was being played through a broken speaker. He ran, didn't stop until he was in the front of the store, surrounded by other employees. When they went back to check, all the TVs were off, unplugged, and the laughter had stopped. But on one of the screens, written in dust across the glass, were 2 words. I see you. Daniel requested a transfer to day shift the next morning. The 6th story is from Rebecca, a supervisor in Florida. She'd worked at Walmart for over a decade and thought she'd seen everything. But what happened one humid July night shook her to her core. She was locking up the garden center around 2 in the morning when she heard crying, soft, muffled, like a child. She followed the sound to the back corner, near the potted plants. And there, sitting on the floor between 2 shelves, was a little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, wearing a white dress, her face buried in her hands. Rebecca's heart lurched. She knelt down, asking the girl if she was okay, if she was lost. The girl didn't respond, just kept crying. Rebecca reached out to touch her shoulder, and the girl's head snapped up. Her eyes were wrong, too wide, too dark, and her mouth stretched open far wider than it should have. Not screaming, just open, like a void. Rebecca stumbled back, her heart hammering. She blinked, and the girl was gone. Just gone. No sound, no movement. Rebecca searched the entire garden center. Nothing. She radioed security, but they found no sign of anyone. No little girl. No parents. No one matching that description had entered the store that night. But Rebecca knew what she saw, and she wasn't the first. When she mentioned it to a longtime employee, the woman's face went pale, said the same girl had been seen before, years ago, always in the garden center, always crying, always vanishing. Some said she was the ghost of a child who'd gotten lost in the store decades ago, that she'd wandered into the storage area and never found her way out. Others said it was just a story, an urban legend. But Rebecca didn't care about the theories, because 2 nights later, she saw the girl again. This time, she wasn't crying. She was standing at the far end of the garden center, staring. And when Rebecca turned to call for help, she felt something. Small, cold fingers wrapping around her wrist. She yanked her arm away and ran, didn't look back. And when she finally stopped, gasping for air in the break room, she looked down at her wrist. There were marks, small handprints, bruised into her skin, like someone had been holding on tight, desperate. Rebecca put in her 2 weeks' notice the next day. The seventh story belongs to Thomas, a cart attendant in North Carolina. His job was to gather shopping carts from the parking lot and bring them inside. Simple, mindless. But the parking lot at night felt different, empty, vast. The kind of place where your footsteps echo and every shadow looks like it's moving. Thomas usually worked with headphones in, trying to drown out the silence. But one night, his phone died, and that's when he started hearing it. A voice, faint, coming from the far end of the lot, calling his name. He stopped, pulling his headphones down. The voice called again, clearer this time. Thomas. It sounded like a woman, desperate, pleading. He walked toward the sound, his cart forgotten. The parking lot was empty. No cars, no people, just rows of painted lines stretching into the darkness. The voice called again. Closer now. He turned toward the edge of the lot where the asphalt met a line of trees. And there, just beyond the tree line, he saw her, a woman, wearing a long coat, her back to him. She was facing the trees, her head tilted slightly, like she was listening to something. Thomas called out, asking if she needed help. The woman didn't respond, didn't move. He took a step closer, and then she spoke, without turning around. "You shouldn't be here." Her voice was flat, emotionless. Thomas froze. He asked what she meant. The woman slowly turned her head, not her body, just her head. And when he saw her face, it wasn't right. Her features were blurred, smudged, like someone had tried to erase them. Thomas ran, didn't stop until he was back inside the store, gasping for air. He told his supervisor, but the man just shrugged it off, said it was probably some homeless person. But Thomas knew better, because when he looked at the security footage later, trying to prove what he saw, the woman wasn't there. The cameras showed the parking lot, empty, no figure, no woman, just Thomas. Standing alone, staring at nothing. He quit the next week. Said he couldn't shake the feeling that the woman was still out there, waiting, watching. And every time he drove past that Walmart, even in broad daylight, he swore he could see her, standing at the edge of the lot, facing the trees, her head turned, looking at him. The eighth and final story comes from Lisa, a pharmacy technician who worked overnights in Louisiana. The pharmacy closed at 9 p.m., but Lisa stayed late to process prescriptions and restock shelves. The area was separated from the rest of the store by a tall counter and a locked gate. She liked the privacy, the quiet. But one night in early December, that quiet became suffocating. She was counting pills in the back when she heard tapping. Slow, rhythmic, like fingernails on glass. She glanced up. The pharmacy was surrounded by windows that looked out into the store, and standing on the other side of the glass, inches away, was a man. He was tall, dressed in a dark coat, his face obscured by shadows. But his hands were pressed against the glass. And he was tapping, one finger at a time. Tap, tap, tap. Lisa's heart sank. She called out, telling him the pharmacy was closed. He didn't respond, just kept tapping. She stepped closer, trying to see his face. But the lights in the store made it hard to see past the reflection in the glass. She asked if he needed help. The man finally spoke. His voice was muffled through the glass, but the words were clear. "I need to come in." Lisa told him the pharmacy was closed until morning. He could come back then. The man tilted his head, and then, slowly, he smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. That doesn't come from joy. "I need to come in now." Lisa felt her pulse quicken. She backed away from the window and called security. But as she waited, the man didn't leave. He just stood there, tapping. And then the lights in the pharmacy began to flicker. Lisa grabbed her phone, ready to call the police, when the man pressed his face against the glass. And that's when she saw it. His eyes, they were black, completely black. No whites, no irises, just darkness. And his smile, it stretched too far, too wide, like his face was being pulled apart. The lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the pharmacy. Lisa fumbled for her phone, turning on the flashlight. And when she swept the beam across the windows, the man was gone. Security arrived 5 minutes later. They checked the cameras. No sign of anyone near the pharmacy. No man, no figure, nothing. But Lisa couldn't shake it. The image of those black eyes, that smile. She requested a transfer to day shift. But even now, years later, she still has nightmares, dreams where she's back in that pharmacy. And the man is there, tapping on the glass, smiling, waiting for her to let him in. These are the stories no one talks about. The things that happen when the lights are low and the store is empty. When the only sounds are the hum of the freezers and the distant echo of footsteps. If you've ever felt watched in those long aisles, if you've ever heard something move when no one else was there, maybe it wasn't your imagination. Maybe some places hold more than products and people. Maybe they hold echoes, memories, things that don't leave when the doors close, things that wait and watch, and sometimes they want something more. If this story made your heart race, hit that like button and subscribe. Because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. And remember, the next time you're shopping late at night, pay attention to the aisles that feel too cold, to the shadows that move when you're not looking, because you might not be alone. You never really are. Stay safe out there. And whatever you do, don't ignore the footsteps behind you. They might be getting closer.